You know, I'm not that guy that constantly puts those super fancy 360 shots in his videos. That's simply because at first I think it's not very practical often, like fake drone shots for example. You wouldn't really bring a 3-meter selfie stick on your travels, right? And also they seem to get old pretty quick. Like they look cool on Instagram and TikTok for a while, but after everyone has seen it, it's like boring kind of. And that's why in today's video I want to show you some creative and practical ways that you can use in your everyday life to make your videos better using an Insta360 camera such as the X4. So let's get into it. Let me show you how I got this shot here. It's actually a good example here for practicality, because when you're traveling you can set up something like that pretty much instantly. Like I put a pillow here behind the head of the bed, then selfie stick of course for the 360 camera, back on top. And that's how easy you achieve a top-down shot over your bed or also other parts wherever you want. And I love top-down shots. Like they are great to show things, they offer a different perspective, and having the possibility to set that up quickly on your travels is great. Now, of course, you can also do that with normal action cameras. You don't necessarily need a 360 camera for it, but 360 gives you a bit more options to reframe it later in case something is not straight or so. That's pretty cool. And you can also add certain animations, like suddenly moving the camera up to put a title or so into a video. I didn't do that now because my room looks quite messy, like you should clean up before. So much about this shot. Super easy to get, but also looks cool. Let's now come to the settings before we go out and I show you a bit more. When it comes to settings, there's actually not that much you have to do. You just swipe down from the top and then you go into that settings menu here. And there you select image settings and select video encoding H.265. That's important, and you have better compression so you get more information and the footage looks a bit better, especially when you color grade it a bit. Then bitrate to high for the same reason. You want to capture as much data as possible. And under video sharpness, you select low, because medium and high is just digital sharpening. That doesn't look good, and you can do it in post anyway if you want to add a bit of sharpening. So you don't need that. And regarding the actual settings, you get a bit better quality if you record in single lens mode, because then it only uses one lens and oversamples from there. It's a bit more like an action camera then. And the 360 mode is of course good if you want to film everything around you, which is the reason why you would use a 360 camera in the first place. But regarding video, I found that overall you get the best quality if you just shoot in the normal settings. 8K resolution, I shoot in 24 frames per second. You can also shoot in 25 or 30, that's up to you, but I like 24 more. When you swipe left from the right, you find this menu here. There you can select the picture profile, and I would recommend to either shoot in flat or in standard. Standard you have to color grade a bit less, and in flat you have to grade a bit more, but therefore you also have a bit more option for color grading. You can also select HDR, but then the resolution drops to 5.7K. Okay, so much about the settings. I would say let's go out now and give you some more shot ideas. So let's come directly to my first shot. It's probably my favorite 360 shot. I call it a clone shot because it's basically that you can animate the camera later while you appear at different parts in the frame at the same time. Looks super cool, and it sounds complicated, but it's actually very easy to film. All you have to do really is to place the Insta360 camera or whichever 360 camera you want somewhere where there's a lot of space where you can stand, and then you just record and stand in multiple places, and the rest happens in the edit, which I will show you later in the video how to do it. I do have one tip though for this shot, and that is that you should be aware of the stitching lines. So essentially you position the camera in a way that the lenses point wherever you will stand. Like I will stand there soon, and probably there, and also here where the other lens points at. And if I would stand here in the middle where the stitching lines later are, there might get a bit of distortion, which is why I stand the camera like that. Now I'm running into a problem because there are quite a lot of people running around here, and you don't want much movement or much going on in general in the shot. The surroundings should stay pretty much the same because otherwise it's hard to edit. Wish me luck. The exciting part of those shots is always that you never know how it turns out. You have to edit it, so I'm excited. Yeah, I know that's actually bad storytelling what I'm doing now. I was walking away this path there, but now I'm walking that path here. It's not good, guys, because it would fit from one shot to the next if I would have walked this part down here in the Insta360 shot. Storytelling, but it's a tutorial, so I don't actually have to tell a story here, so it should be fine. Anyway, the Insta360 is great also to film daily stuff quickly, because you can choose later which angle you want to show and which not. And that makes it so easy to film everything, so you just have to hold it in your hands and it records everything around you. So, that was loud. So, let's give it a try. Another top-down shot. It's actually even easier. 360 cameras like the X4 make it super easy to capture things around you. For example, if you film conversations with friends and other people, you only need to hold the 360 camera in between you and them, and both faces are automatically captured. So you can decide during the edit which face you want to show and when. That allows for much better storytelling in vlogs without making everything too complicated or making people feel uncomfortable. Another great tool for storytelling is shooting time lapses, and the X4 allows that in 11K in 360 mode. Let's check it out. There's one thing that 360 cameras can't do for you, that is waiting. You have to wait when you shoot time lapses. Yeah, there was too much wind. I had luck, the lens is not damaged. I had to reshoot the video from here because it was way too loud at CM Square, I noticed during the edit, and I didn't want to do that to you guys. It was really hard to listen to me. Anyway, talking about the time-lapse that I shot there, I have a tip for you, and that is that whenever you shoot a time-lapse, especially with 360 cameras, but also with others, is that you should imagine how the time-lapse will look later when you edit it. And that's mainly in regards to the position of your camera and the movement that you want to capture with your time-lapse. At first, if there's no movement around you, like no people walking by, clouds moving, or anything else like the trains in the shot, then you should also not shoot a time-lapse, because then essentially you will just capture a single static shot instead of actually showing movement there. So movement is very important, and that also leads us to the position of the camera, because especially with 360 cameras you usually want to add some sort of animation in there. Like in this example, you see this panning movement from the right to left, which I added in post, and if I want to add such animations in post, I have to think about that before I shoot the time lapse to position my camera right. Because if I would have, for example, placed the X4 too close to that palm tree that was standing there, then the palm tree might have blocked the view to some of those people, so a part of the motion would have gotten lost. Wouldn't be really big in that specific example, but there are probably other ones where you would just block something that you will actually want to capture. So definitely remember that, and there are also a few updates that Insta360 published recently, which we will come to now. The first update is pretty interesting if you're a live streamer, because the Insta360 X4 with its latest firmware upgrade allows you now to broadcast live video in either 360 or single lens mode in a 2:1 aspect ratio. So if you want to stream something super cool, maybe even with that 360-degree angle, then you can do that now. I'm personally not a live streamer, so I don't know exactly how it works. Can't show you anything here, but if you're a live streamer, you probably know what that means. And Insta360 also recently updated its app, which is pretty interesting actually, because it has a kind of automatic editing functionality, which was quite basic before, like it recognized faces and objects and edited the video based on that. But now it also recognizes the interaction between objects. So for example, if you film a family, then it's not just that it recognizes all the family members, but it also recognizes the interaction between family members and can edit based on that. I think this is a huge feature. Again, I personally want to have full control over my edits, so I personally won't use it, but I think especially if you're a short form content creator and you want to quickly do edits on the go, then this is a feature that you might want to look into. And now they use some sort of template, so you don't have to actually do keyframing anymore. Pretty cool. So let's move on. The Insta360 X4 does not only give you the option for 8K up to 30 frames per second recording, but you can also shoot in 5.7K, which allows you to shoot in 60 frames per second in 360 mode. So you get a similar quality to the X3 still, but you have 60 frames per second available, which is great. And that allows you to create slow motion in the edit. So I want to try that out now. Let's find a motorbike rider here. I also have another tip for you to increase the quality of the footage a bit, but you don't get 360 view then. And that is that you can also use the Insta360 X4 in single lens mode. This is what I'm doing right now. So I don't get this 360 effect. It's still pretty wide, but it only films with one lens. But therefore I have a full 5.7K resolution available on one side. The advantage of that is simply that if you would record in 180 in 8K, you still have to crop in the footage. Like you have to select which frame you want to choose, and that is usually less than 4K resolution. So by having one side filmed only in 5.7K and cropping a bit later in post, you end up with actual 4K resolution. Depends of course how much you crop. If you crop too much and also not, but this is a good way to increase the quality of your footage. But of course you lose the ability then to reframe in post. You can still reframe it a little bit, but you can't turn the whole camera around. So it's the end of the day here of my little trip in Bangkok today. So let's get on the computer and I show you how I edit all of that stuff. These singers are pretty good. It's actually a nice photography spot here. Soi 57 Sukhumvit. Pretty cool. Like this is also one of the shots that I used in the beginning of this video. It is hot though. Let's come to editing 360 videos. I start the edit in the Insta360 Studio app, but I only use it to export the 360 video files, so I select all files, right click and then select Start Export. In the following screen I choose Export 360 Video, Original Resolution, Recommended Bitrate, H.265 and I turn Remove Grain, Direction Lock and Flow State Stabilization on for best quality. After that I continue editing the rest in DaVinci Resolve using a free plugin called Kata VR. Final Cut Pro also works fine and the process is pretty much the same but easier as you don't need a plugin. To edit the clone effect shot, I put the clip into the timeline, cut it down to start with the first part I want to show, and from there I make it as long as I want the whole clone effect clip to last. Then I duplicate this clip and switch to trim mode by pressing T to change the timing of the clip to the second part of where I'm standing. I repeat the step by duplicating again and trim to the third standing position. You can repeat that if you have more positions of yourself in your clip. After that, I reset the positioning of all the clips and start animating the top one with keyframes. One keyframe at the very beginning for the starting position and one keyframe at the end of the clip for the final position. That creates the animation. Then I deactivate the clip and create the exact same keyframes with the same values on the bottom clips. In Final Cut Pro you could copy and paste it to save some time, but in Resolve that doesn't seem to work properly, so I have to create every keyframe manually. Now it's time to cut the top clips to start them at the positions where I appear. You can already see the effect after that, but it looks a bit jumpy. To fix that, I first create a compound clip out of each individual one and then I use the crop tool together with softness to blend the clips together. To make it visible what I'm doing, I reduce the opacity of the bottom clips. I also keyframe the crop positions as otherwise the crop would cut me out during the animation. And there we go. It might be a bit difficult when you do it for the first time, but it's looking great. The second shot I want to show you is this one. I just held the camera over the road from the overpass to get this shot. In the edit, I adjust the field of view and pitch attributes in the Kata VR plugin to get that top-down angle. Then I place keyframes on all attributes, go to the end of the clip and adjust the attributes to end up with a final frame. It looks a bit like the camera would fly over the road because I also keyframed the field of view to let it appear moving forward. This one is actually an easy edit, but you see, it looks pretty cool. So it was a lot of fun shooting over the past few days with the X4 here in Bangkok, and I must say I still undervalue those cameras a bit, because let's be real, the quality of those cameras is just not the same as I get from my Sony, for example. They also don't have to be. That's why I don't use those 360 cameras that much, but every time that I use them and I edit the footage later, I'm always like, wow, and I have so much fun using them. So if you want to have a fun camera to capture your travels, your moments and stuff, or also to make vlogging a bit easier, then you should definitely look into 360 cameras. I especially, again, think that those cameras are kind of a must-have for vloggers because it makes capturing everything around you so easy and effortless. And it's also not
as intimidating for other people if you just hold a camera like that in your hand pretty unsuspiciously, as if you would not film anyone. That makes it pretty cool. If you're looking into this Insta360 X4, I would definitely rate it over the X3 or other 360 cameras, simply because of its 8K resolution. It definitely helps. It's still not perfect 4K that we get after the edit, but the quality at least is very good. So definitely comes recommended. You will find a link to the X4 in the description below. I might get a discount code there for you. I hope so. So purchase through that link to support this channel. It's an affiliate link, so I get a small commission, but you don't pay anything extra. Aside from that, consider subscribing and leave me a like if you enjoyed this video. Bye.